12. A bit of rivering. Sharn sat on the pile of blankets he had slept on, tying his moccasins tight around his ankles. Cree, who had long ago given up sleeping on blankets and upgraded to an Easterner-style wooden bed and mattress, roused himself awake. He looked over at Sharn on the other side of the cave with half-open eyes and mumbled something like, "G'morgen." "Welcome back to the land of the living," Sharn said, standing. "If you need me, I will be outside, breathing fresh air." "The air in my home is the freshest around," Cree muttered, still laying in his bed. Sharn walked outside, stretched his arms wide, and felt the warm sun on his skin. A few moments later, Cree walked out of his cave hut to a nearby tree. "Is it a good day for traveling?" he asked, simultaneously yawning, stretching, and urinating on the tree. "Aye," Sharn said, "Twagotch smiles on us. Furrow cloud as far as the eye can see. A good time for you to be out of your cave, too." "It seems Twagotch smiles on you only. I'd rather keep sleeping." Cree sat hard on a tree stump and slid on his own shoes. "And I don't know why you continue to call my home a cave. It has a door. Do you know of any caves which have doors? It is a home, constructed of and conveniently lodged within the base of a small mountain, which makes it the most indestructible home in this whole town. But like all the other homes, it has a door." Cree was the only person Sharn knew who preferred the endless dark of winter to the constant summer sun. "If you want me to be out of my cave today," Cree said, "you are going to buy me some saba. The sooner, the better." "Of course, I would never think otherwise." Cree's home sat a little above Minvarin, halfway up a hill, which itself sat at the base of a mountain peak. He had a fantastic view of the town, the river, the distant forest, and a glimpse of the vast plains beyond. Here, where town, river, forest, and rocky underground came together, Cree had found a mashing together of all his mixed heritage and upbringing. Cree's father had been Dotang. Sharn still did not know how the coupling had happened. Cree never brought it up, so neither did he. But Sharn knew Cree's Dotang ancestry had brought him to Minvarin as much as his love of crowds and boats and mountains. The Dotang were water people. Their language had more words for the sea than Kwali Dane had words for the forest. In the early days, the Dotang mostly settled along the coast, but some ventured further inland and settled here, where the river ran widest. Other Dotang continued north and found lakes in the mountains, where they settled and multiplied with vigor. Minvarin had become a perfect middle place between the mountain and coastal Dotang. Supplies were ferried down the river and hauled or hoisted up the sometimes steep trail beside it. Soon after, the Kwali Dane began trading with the residents of Minvarin. Then the Kote down south came up to trade. Then, the Minkaira began using Minvarin as a stopover and trading station. Of course, settling a town on the banks of a river like the Varinu had proved dangerous. Kwali Dane would never have settled so close, but these Dotang either knew no better or did not care. Minvarin had already been flooded times past counting, but the Dotang just went to their boats and floated until the river receded. Some had given up entirely and built floating houses to live in year-round. The two men walked down the winding path into town, across town to the waterfront, and along the waterfront to Sasanana's. "Sharn!" growled a giant of a man as soon as they walked through the door. The man carried a giant black pot nestled between forearms and thighs. "So glad," he breathed, "to see you again." The man released the pot onto the floor. Thick yellow stew sloshed over the side like an ocean wave. The man ignored the spilled stew and, breathing hard, turned to Cree. "Cree, wish I could say the same about you." He laughed a big boisterous laugh, still bent over the pot. "Laugh it up, Sa," Cree said. "Laugh it right up. Why don't you two carry this out to that big table and I'll give you breakfast on the house." Sa was tall and broad-shouldered like most Dotangi, with a sizable belly and legs like tree trunks. Though his ponytail and large drooping mustache were almost white, his bald head and skin were dark. Cree had mentioned to Sharn once that Sa's Dotang father had bought his Kote mother from her starving, fatherless, exiled family for the price of a few fish. Sa returned to the kitchen, leaving Sharn and Cree to handle the giant pot. They lifted it between them and Crab walked toward the table in question. Actually, 3 tables pulled together. With every step, the pot swung and a little stew sloshed out, leaving a wet trail on the floor. Some of the men at the table saw the pot coming toward them and moved to help, then saw 2 native Brinaatii carrying the pot, and decided to stay put. Sharn thought Cree would say something, but either because there were so many Easterners or because he was out of breath, his friend held his tongue. The Easterners moved aside somewhat, and Cree and Sharn counted 1, 2, 3 and lifted the pot to the tabletop. Stew sloshed out and hit the table. The men laughed. "Sa!" yelled one of them. "Is this the best help you can find? A half-breed and a dirty river rat? A couple more animals and you've got a farm instead of a tavern." The men exploded in laughter. Sharn gritted his teeth as he and Cree twisted the heavy pot one way and then the other until it rested at the center of the table. Sa's voice boomed from behind the bar. "Lay off, or you can find somewhere else to eat." The men waved off Sa's threat and laughed some more. Cree and Sharn walked back to the bar. "Fresh off the ships, this lot," Sa said. "Think they know what's what. Anyway, what can we make for you two this morning?" "Just Saba this morning," said Cree. "Sharn is in a hurry to be home." Sharn nodded agreement. "Nonsense, I won't allow it. And you know better than to try it. Sit down. Sharn, your woman and child will have to wait a little longer." He leaned in. "I'll bring you the house special. The reason it's special is because no one else will eat it." He laughed all the way to the kitchen. Sa brought them 2 big bowls of river stew, hot and delicious despite his warning, and day-old cornbread. They ate, and when they convinced him they could eat no more, he brought 2 cups of steaming saaba. They sipped it slow, watching the morning activity on the docks. "Now I'm awake and warm and full of food," Cree said. "I think I'd like to do a bit of rivering this morning. What do you say? Shall we boat down river a ways before you take to journeying by foot?" "I wouldn't mind at all," said Sharn, "as long as you guarantee I will not end up in the river this time." "Pah, that was a surge of the river, as I've told you before. Beyond my control." "Surge, must have been some surge to overturn a canoe." "Yes, a very great surge," Cree nodded. Sharn slid a Minkeran coin onto the bar just as Sa came through the door from the kitchen. "What's this?" Sa asked. "At least let me pay for Saba," Sharn said. "No," said Cree, "I'll pay for it. Put it on my tab." Sa looked at both of them in turn. "Sharn, when I say on the house, I mean on the house. Cree, you already know that, and besides, your tab is so long now it needs its own room upstairs. Go in peace, sons of trouble. You owe me nothing. Well, I mean, Sharn, you owe nothing. Cree, you owe a few boatloads of fish to my here tavern, but nothing for this meal you've just polished." They thanked Sa and left his tavern. Cree kept his dugout canoe on the shore, tied to a post at the west end of one set of docks. He knew everyone in that section. The boat builder, the net mender, the boys who sold bait, and a few people who fished from the docks, so Cree did not worry about his boat going missing. "Hey, half-breed!" Cree turned toward the voice. "Oh, great spirit," he muttered. Sharn looked at Cree, then at the man on the dock who had yelled. He looked like an Easterner, but which kind Sharn could not say. "I saws you two in Sanana House," the man slurred, "taking care of them young soldier men. Looked like they was ready to stick you two on that one's spear, cook you over an open flame." He veered sideways as he walked and had a bedraggled look. "Good day, Corley. How's the missus?" Cree asked, feigning politeness. "Shut your stinking face, you soft-eyed half-breed." Cree smiled. He turned to Sharn. "Our poor Corley here just can't hold on to a woman. They'll stay around for a little while, but—" Sharn saw movement from the man, grabbed Cree's arm and pulled hard. Cree lost his footing and splashed into the shallow water, landing on his backside as an arrow zipped through the space he had just occupied. Sharn grabbed his tomahawk and glared at the man called Corley. Cree got to his feet in half a heartbeat and looked at Sharn, red-faced and dripping. Sharn pointed with his tomahawk. Cree turned, saw Corley holding a bow. His eyes narrowed and he moved for his knife. Sharn put his hand on Cree's arm, nodded toward shore. The interaction had gained attention. "Remember that, boy, next time you want to talk about things you don't understand to people who are better than you." Cree and Sharn stared at the man. If they attacked, far-reaching and painful consequences would follow. Sharn put away his tomahawk and followed Cree's lead, grabbing the canoe. They flipped the boat and slid it into the water. Cree hopped lightly into the front of the canoe, then Sharn stepped into the back. They said not a word as they paddled away. Sharn glanced over his shoulder and saw the man Corley standing on the dock, a big smile on his face.